Two, one. Yes, guys, it is Suki from BTS TV with Beyond the Stage with our special news section with one-to-one interviews with key figures on and off the stage. I'm first going to introduce my co-host and go straight into my special guest. Now, look, my co-host, you may think that he's just come off stage at WrestleMania. You may have just think he's just being screwed over by Paul Heyman. It's not Roman Reigns. It is, of course, AJ Kelly. AJ, you all good?
I'm really excited to talk to Dan Solomon because the video that went out 4 days ago with the Olympia video, now the Olympia spirit, it's up a couple of notch with that video, Dan.
Well, look, before we hear from Dan, let me do a proper introduction. 'Cause I like to do my intros properly. I made some notes of this because I don't want to miss a thing. In fact,
Okay.
some key bits of it was new information to myself. So, who we have? Dan Solomon, graduate from University of Hartford. 1999, he founded a talent management company to support bodybuilders and fitness personalities. This is the interesting bit. 2005, he later launched the Pro Bodybuilding Weekly, the first ever talk radio show dedicated to sport. This expanded his partnerships with Muscle Tech, Flex Magazine, and of course, at this point, he was appointed to roles with the IFBB. Now, of course, it gets interesting. 2018. This is where he was officially appointed as Vice President and Chief Olympia Officer by the Olympia brand. And now, of course, he is President of the Olympia, the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. It is, of course, Dan Solomon. Did I do yourself justice there,
I
mate?
am unworthy of that thoughtful introduction, but I appreciate it. You guys are very kind. It's great to finally be with you. I know you guys have worked hard to put this together for a while, and I have been elusive and difficult, but I'm glad to finally clear my head and the schedule just for a few minutes and chat with you guys. You guys are doing a great job.
Well, look, I really appreciate this. Now, of course, we are going to be looking forward to the Olympia 2025. Of course, me being in the UK, Olympia 2024 was a big year for us. We had two Olympia champions. But before we go into that, Dan, I want to touch on yourself. I want to throw this question to you, and I'm really keen to hear your thoughts. I love brands. I love faces of a brand that acts as a beacon for that certain brand. Let me give you an example. WWE has Triple H. People say he's the face of WWE. UFC has Dana White. Closer to home in the UK, Matchroom Boxing has Eddie Hearn. Olympia, a lot of people would say, I would personally agree, that the face of the Olympia is Dan Solomon, who kind of puts himself out there, sharing the news, sharing the updates. We've seen it on Olympia TV, we've seen it on other media outlets. Those three names that I've just shared, who are faces of their own brands, some you've met, some you may have not. I'm really keen to understand what are maybe the similarities for yourself and those three I just mentioned, who are all passionate about their individual brand.
Right. Well, for starters, that's incredibly kind of you to say those things. There are many faces, though, of the Olympia, and there's many people that sort of help tell the story of what we do daily and throughout the year, and of course throughout the history of this great tradition. I do feel that it is my responsibility, though, to grow our sport. And what I mean by that is a lot of people who have jobs overseeing events in all sports, in all corners of the world, specifically in bodybuilding as well. What they do is they wake up every day and they try to figure out ways to make their events bigger. And I respect that. I appreciate that. And that's an important part of it. And of course, I share in that. But when your role is president of the Olympia, the responsibility is a little bit larger because what the Olympia does, not only production-wise, but economically, promotionally, all the verticals that comprise this enterprise of the Olympia, what we do is it impacts the entire global fitness movement, right? So when the Olympia raises the bar in production, other events follow suit. When the Olympia raises prize money, other events try to keep pace. When the Olympia brings in new sponsors, those new sponsors if they're happy with the experience, will trickle down and support the other events. When the Olympia grows its footprint from the standpoint of global reach, it brings more people into this community, which in turn inspires the growth at all levels below the Olympia. So when I go out every weekend and I stand on stages and do seminars and promote the sport and meet fans and try to develop the economy of the fitness and bodybuilding industry, I'm not doing that simply on behalf of the Olympia. I'm doing that for a larger purpose. And I think that's why you say the things that you do, because I've always felt that it's an incredibly important role. And that's the part that I think gets lost, is when they hear me described as the guy who oversees the Olympia. Of course, Jake Wood is the owner of the Olympia, and it's my great privilege to, work for Jake. And of course, with Jim Mannion and Tyler and the entire team, and we all collaborate and connect daily to make sure we're growing the sport. The growth of the overall sport is what makes these responsibilities different than somebody else who might hold a similar position with other events. So, but when you draw those comparisons with those other individuals, it's something that I aspire to. I've gotten to understand the UFC. We've gotten to know the folks who run the UFC and Dana and Hunter and those guys, and we we take notes. And those guys have done it at the highest level. And whether you're talking about what Stephanie and Triple H are doing over in the WWE, or these other sports that have leadership. Yeah, we watch closely and we learn from each other. I know I learn a lot from them, and I am incredibly grateful to be able to contribute to the growth of something larger than just a weekend in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I gotta say, Dan, what I've seen with there's so much changes since you took over. You see the movie in you see Joe Weider there in the background as I watched Bigger yesterday to get inspired for your meeting for you today. But I think, by bringing the amateur Olympia to all over the world now, with the Master Olympia, with the clothing line, with your own TV show, Primetime Muscle, I just feel there's such a it's so different for the better, that I just feel like before the Olympia was great. It was like one day of the year. But just since you took over as the president, it feels like it's Olympia is like, what I mean, like almost every day, and especially with the amateur Olympia name and the Master Olympia, it's really exciting times, Dan. It's really exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I appreciate you observing those things because you are right. We started and the Olympia was perceived as, yeah, the definitive world championship event, the sort of culmination of a year. The World Cup, the Super Bowl, the World Series, the NBA Finals, that's what it was. And that certainly is still what it is. But what we've really worked to do is remind the world that the Olympia is more than just a title or a world championship event. It is a global symbol of achievement in the world of fitness and physique transformation, right? So when you see folks in your local gyms, whatever part of the world you are in, from Dubai to LA to Miami to New York to wherever, and they're wearing that Olympia symbol, they're wearing that because it is a show of connection to what we're all trying to do together. And that's why the Olympia, it transcends beyond, like you said, just the event. And we've really worked hard to make it a day in and day out conversation, reminding the world that the Olympia is very much the mountaintop, right? And when you see people speak of it, people refer to themselves as a four-time Olympia champion, as a seven-time Olympia champion, as the all-time greatest Olympia champion. You know who won the Olympia in 1998. You know who won it in 2006. You know who won it in 2008. Those years matter. We connect. That doesn't exist with other events, right? So there's a certain connection point where the Olympia is at, who our champion is, sort of defines the era of an entire sport. So it goes far beyond just an individual title. It resonates far greater than that, and we really enjoyed the content part of it. One of the things that makes the Olympia connection, even with our sponsors, more meaningful is that we are a global media company with Muscle and Fitness and our various media brands. So when a company comes in and they title sponsor or they take a sponsorship at the Olympia, it's not, as you pointed out, just a weekend experience. It is a year-round relationship with an audience of diehard, passionate fitness enthusiasts. And we're very grateful to serve that role. And when folks like you, who I know watch it as close as anybody, when you draw those observations and you see those things and you make those comments, it tells me that what we're doing is working. So I'm incredibly grateful to you for pointing those things out, because sometimes we're all so close to it here in the office every day. We come to work, we wake up early, we're up late, and all we do is think about not just the Olympia, but ways to develop the brand, ways to grow the sport. And when I hear folks like you who are as connected to the culture as anyone, and I hear the way you speak of it, um, it feels good. It really does. And I really appreciate the hell out of it, because sometimes the hard work can beat you up a little bit, and you wonder the impact that it's making. But it's conversations like this and the feedback that we get around the world when we get off of airplanes in other countries and we see the way we're met with the enthusiasm and the respect and the excitement, because they want to connect with the Olympia, they want to connect with bodybuilding and fitness. It tells me that what we're doing is working.
Dan, you mentioned something about the Olympia title is more than just a title. A lot of people take responsibility of that title for the next 12 months. This is where I want to throw it back to Samson Dauda,
Yeah.
who's been traveling all over the world this year. I'm really keen to hear your thoughts of how you have felt since Samson Dauda won the Mr. Olympia title in 2024. How do you think he has carried himself the Olympia title over the last 6 months?
What a
Well,
champion! What a champion, Dan, huh?
for,
Samson.
What you said.
for starters, let's take it one step further. He's not just a great champion. He's a great human, right?
Yeah.
Samson carries so much emotional texture. When you look into his eyes and he's communicating with you, it oozes authenticity.
Mm.
His story, he wears it. And I remember the night that he won, and then we had the seminar the next day, and just hearing him speak of his journey and what he's been through, and just his overall connection with the fans. It's different. It's different. Sometimes you just look at something and you can't always articulate it. You just say, this guy's different. And it's really fun to see the way he's carried himself. Of course, he decided to go ahead and do something unconventional. He decided to compete during his Olympia run. And it's interesting. A lot of people ask me how I felt about that. And I didn't have an issue with it. Look, we don't discourage people from competing in other shows, but I will say this. When you win the Olympia, it gives you the right to spend the next 12 months traveling the world as the definitive number one on the planet, right? That's the privilege that you get for winning Mr. Olympia. It's the one singular title that allows you to definitively call yourself the best in the world. And that's quite a thing to walk around with in anything that you do to be the best in the world. It's very hard to get there. The road to the top is complicated, it's intense, it's emotional, and it's hard. And Samson did it. So now he goes ahead and he decides to compete. And Samson knew that when he won the Olympia this year, it was close. The distance between Samson Dauda, Derek Lunsford, and Hadi Chopin is small, right? Those guys are elite. They are battling. They're going to probably beat each other for the next few years. So it wasn't a situation where he decided to just jump in to pick up a paycheck, kind of knowing that he had it locked up. So on one hand, I really respect his courage for going in there and putting it on the line. On the other hand, I do feel some sense of, say, sadness, but almost disappointment for him, because I'd like for him to be able to spend the next 6 months of his title reign not having to answer those kind of questions that he now has to answer. And he and I spoke a few weeks after the Olympia, and he mentioned to me that he was doing the Arnold. He actually mentioned it right away at the seminar. And he asked me what I thought. And I said, listen, I said, it's never my place to tell an athlete what to do. It's not my role to do that. But I did warn him. I said, listen, just understand that while there is tremendous courage in competing and trying to put the title on the line, and nobody will ever disrespect your willingness to put it on the line. And I think that's a deficient quality nowadays. Everybody plays it safe. And I respect Samson for going out there and saying, you know what, I don't care who's going to compete. I'm going to give it a shot. And there was a big first place prize check waiting for him. And he wanted to go for it. So I respect that he went for it. but I do hate that he has to spend the next 6 months. It doesn't affect, look, it's great for the Olympia, right? We've just created even a bigger clash, a bigger rivalry, a bigger storyline that, Derek and Samson are going to get their rematch. So from the Olympia standpoint, it's great, let these guys go at it and have a good time. But from the standpoint of the athlete, in this case, Samson, I hate for him that he now has to have a different conversation with the fans than he would be having right now had he, opted to just hold out for the Olympia. But to answer your question, Samson is incredible, an impossible guy not to fully respect. He's just a great human. He works hard, and I'm hoping that he brings it again in October, because I think this rivalry that is building up between him and Derek and Hadi. And I love the fact that when Samson was defeated a few months back, earlier this year, I love the fact that he made no excuses. He didn't whine, he didn't cry about it. He took it and he went back to work. And I respect the hell out of that.
Just one comment about that. Before we go, obviously, we want to talk a little bit about this great build-up now, but how did you feel at the Arnold? For me, we were excited to watch the Arnold. Arnold's is always the second best show. It's even though Pittsburgh Pro is now coming up very close to be that second best show, but when Arnold says we are the best show and we do it better, and I'm sitting and thinking, what? You don't fly out hundreds and hundreds of athletes, and you don't have 11 divisions, and you have great history, but you don't have the Sandow Trophy. And like, how does it make you feel when Arnold he's saying it with a smile? But does it?
I
How does
I've
it feel
known
when you hear those? When you hear
Yeah,
that?
so we've known Arnold for long enough. Arnold is one of our great champions. He won our show 7 times. It was our event that launched his
His career.
epic career.
Yeah.
And we have so much respect for what Arnold means to so many bodybuilding fans. Arnold is not programmed to think in any way except for being the best, right? That's what makes Arnold so unique. That's what made him governor. That's what made him a box office megastar. So you're not going to hear humble dialogue from Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's just not the way he's wired. But I also appreciate it. Look, I appreciate anybody's desire. When you're look, when we look at the Arnold Classic is a tremendous Olympia qualifier, right? There's hundreds of Olympia qualifiers that take place around the world on all continents, from yours to ours and all over the place. And their success is incredibly important to us, right? Like, we need those events to be successful. We need those expos to thrive. Um, and on some level, whether we're talking about shows in Tampa, or whether or not we're talking about shows in Omaha, Nebraska, or Columbus, or Miami, or any other city, on some level, that road to the Olympia, that's what paves the road, right? And the success of those shows, we view them much like they're all of our kids, right? So we don't have rivalries with them. It is critical that if an exhibitor goes to Columbus and decides to put on a 20 by 10 exhibitor booth, we want them to feel good about their experience there, because that's going to benefit everybody. Just like when an exhibitor comes to the Olympia, it's vital that that experience is successful for them, because that will then inspire them to want to go to other expos. The largest expo in the world is FIBO over there in Germany. And it's an incredible experience. And all of us aspire to one day become FIBO, right? FIBO is a next level expo environment. Now, of course, what we do with our stage at the Olympia sets us apart. But Columbus, the Arnold Classic, they put on a great expo. And when I hear exhibitors come back and say good things about that, I feel good about that, because we want them to succeed, because if they succeed, then we will all share in the growth, and we do that for each other. So I do think that a lot of times there's a desire to manufacture rivalries. We certainly don't think of it that way, but if it serves Arnold's narrative to go ahead and stir it up a little bit, look, it's all in good fun. We have no issue with it, and I hope Arnold continues, most importantly, to stay close to our community. I hope Arnold continues to stand on stages and flex his muscle and show up at Gold's Venice and train with old ladies and young people and everyone in between, and connect with influencers. And so, yeah, Arnold is Arnold, and he's going to keep doing it his way. And we fully respect it. And if Arnold wants to stir the pot once in a while, look, the strategy has served him well over the course of his life. And at the end of the day, the big winner is the sport of bodybuilding, which impacts those of us who go to the gym, those of us who buy tickets, those of us who share in this lifestyle. So it's all good.
Well, look, competition is only a great thing, and the people who are really winning are the athletes. But let me throw something else in regards to the Arnolds, because there is also another competitive side, and that is the prize money. And there's no doubt that Olympia wins in this. I mean, the amount of prize money that's been awarded since 1965 is over $20 million. And once again, it continues to be record years of what you guys provide the athletes, which is absolutely phenomenal. But there is obviously one question where it's when will the day be where one day the Mr. Olympia champion could walk away with a seven-figure check? And
Well,
I just want to about one thing as well. I can't remember who said it first, but somebody mentioned the Arnolds. It was an Ivory Pro. I can't remember the person's name. And as the awards were about to take place, we remember last year at the Olympia, Jake Wood increased the prize money unbelievably to 600
Oh,
grand,
what
which
a
was
moment!
outrageous, like incredible. There was like, oh wait, is this going to happen at the Arnolds? Are they going to throw in something else and raise it to 1 million? We know how big of a sport is getting, and we know that kind of figure does not happen overnight. But I'm really keen to hear from yourself, Dan. Is there a is there a competition who gets there first? And if not, when do you see potentially the time where Mr. Olympia could walk away with $1 million?
yeah, so the progress has been rapid, right? Um, when you think about how far we've come, like as you mentioned, when Jake decided to step to the podium last year and increase the first place prize by 50%, right? From 400,000 to 600,000.
When did you
And
know that, Dan?
the,
When
the
did you
part
know
that
that?
the part that got, I'll get to that in a second. The part that got lost in all of that is that the runner-up's check was increased to
Yeah,
$250,000,
Yeah.
which means the first and second place winners in the Olympia this year combined to take home $850,000. Just those two guys. Now, for some context, AJ, because I know you're chomping at the bit to chime in here, but when you look at the first place and second place winner at the Olympia got 850,000 combined dollars at the Olympia this year. That amount equals almost the entire prize purse of any other event in the world. And I mean any other event.
I know.
Now,
Yeah,
for some additional context, we gave away nearly $2 million in total prize money this year. And I know you guys have heard me say this before, but I'll say it again. Um, no other event has ever given away 1 million. And we gave away nearly 2 million this past year. I think what needs to happen, though, to be fair, and I'll be the first to say this, and so will Jake, who's a staunch advocate for prize money. Prize money is an enormous topic in our building. Jake cares deeply about making sure it's the same reason why during COVID, when the event was almost canceled and we couldn't even sell tickets, we didn't even reduce prize money $1, and that was because Jake did not want the athletes to pay the price because of what was going on in the world. Jake could have cut prize money in half and nobody would have faulted him that year simply because we put on the event. But we still gave away the full prize money that year when there was only a small crowd in Orlando because we weren't allowed to sell tickets during a global pandemic. So prize money is a priority, especially to Jake Wood, the owner of the Olympia. Now, it's an interesting thing because I was talking to the other day, I was talking to a winner of another division, and I won't call them out, but I will say that they informed me that they would have had, and they won another division at the Olympia a couple years ago, and they said they would have had to have won that title 4 times at any other event to equal what we pay in that division. So the the prize money issue needs to trickle down. Everybody focuses on this first place check, and I appreciate that because that's the sparkly number that everybody wants to obsess over. But I think every promoter would agree. I don't care who you are would agree that the prize money needs to start to be felt in all divisions. It's a very important topic. I know it's an important topic for a lot of people who we connect with. It's an important topic for Chris Bumstead, who I spoke to recently. He wants to see that in the classic division. It's a topic for athletes at all levels, in all divisions. They want to see that. And that is very, very important. Now, in those other divisions, we lead the way significantly. Like it's not even close from a prize money standpoint in those other divisions. So while we're going to continue to march towards that shiny $1 million number, and we will get there because every year we continue to grow. So the trend would suggest that we will get there. But we also have to be responsible because you just mentioned it. We do spend a lot of money to put that event on in a lot of ways. 400, roughly 400, close to 400 pro athletes will qualify in 11 different divisions. Because we serve as the world championship of the sport, we have all of the divisions. Our events are comprised of qualifiers that qualify each weekend. 7, 8, 9 events are held every Saturday night throughout the year in different countries, and they qualify to compete at the Olympia. So we have to be economically set up to support all of that. And then there's also the element of Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a very expensive city to put on an event. Room rates are expensive, production's expensive, unions create a whole different dynamic in what the costs are to put on and execute an event of that scale. It is a week-long activation. It's not just a weekend. We put on a multi-day amateur event. We have press conferences. We have Meet the Olympians. We have seminars. We have a multi-day expo. We have a multi-night stage production. So there's a lot of elements that come with putting on an event in Las Vegas that makes it very, very expensive. So we have to juggle it all. But yeah, I'll be as satisfied as you guys when that day comes. And I expect it's not too far down the road.
Just a quick touch on that. Obviously, when we were growing up, everybody wanted to be Mr. Olympia, the Open. But now, I don't know how it is in America, but here in Europe, every kid that trains and does the pro qualifiers now, they're doing classic. Classic, classic, classic. They really love that division.
Sure.
As you said, Bumstead might be involved. A lot of people. Classic is the second most popular division, I would say, in the world right now. Is that correct, Dan?
I would probably argue that if you measure that by participation, believe it or not,
Yeah, it's men's physique in people, but like,
bikini and men's physique are very, very popular. Classic physique has had a very popular champion for the last 6 years. And I know the division continues to evolve and it's very popular, but I don't think it's fair to just jump out and say that classic is the most popular. I
oh,
think
second,
classic
second, second.
I
I mean,
think or the
fast.
second. I think at the pro level, classic has become the most compelling storylines, and I hope that continues to sustain in the post CBum era, right? When you have a champion that has 35 million plus followers, it's easy to elevate the status of a division, and I know Chris is going to continue working on that, and we're really excited about that. But yeah, classic has become very popular, but make no mistake about it, men's physique and bikini are right there with it. And on some levels, when you go to a local NPC show, and that's where you really measure popularity, is that level of participation. Those divisions are pretty strong.
So with the classic now, do you see will Bumstead contribute with some prize money? Will there be some added money into the classic division at the 2025 Olympia? It's really what Suki and I talked a little bit before, but
I,
will
I
we
think
see
for
that?
yeah, but obviously I remember the fantastic post-Olympia interview, and of course, Sebum mentioned about some Sebum money, and of course, you did say about having the conversation in how Chris Bumstead maybe still working with the Olympia moving forward. As you said, incredible following, and it's a character personality we don't want to lose in the sport. So yeah, I guess we're all very interested to see how what role will Chris Bumstead now play with the Olympia now he's no longer a competitor.
I mean, I think Chris Bumstead, I'd love for, Chris will speak for himself on all of that. But I will say that from talking to Chris, it's very obvious that he cares a lot about the sport in the purest way. And with or without the Olympia, Chris will continue to champion fitness and building muscle and being a part of this lifestyle. So I think all of us are all going to benefit from Chris's ongoing advocacy. of the sport. I know Chris has a special place in his heart for the Olympia. We have a special place in our heart for Chris. We're very much a part of his story. He's very much a part of ours, and we'll always do everything we can to be there for Chris. And I sense that Chris will be there for us as well. So I just hope Chris continues to do what he's doing, and that's getting on airplanes and flying around the world and meeting and greeting and connecting and motivating and inspiring. And there is only one Chris Bumstead. There will probably never be another. He is special in ways that are almost impossible to quantify. The respect that I have for Chris and the way he carries himself, the way he communicates and engages, the way he's in it for the right reasons. There's been times where I've brought Chris opportunities and opportunities that any other athlete would jump on. And he'll look at it closely and he'll measure how on brand it is for him. He'll measure if he feels that it's going to benefit his followers. And he'll walk away from deals. He'll walk away from a paycheck because he doesn't have the conviction or believe in it. And that's unique because, as you know, most people nowadays, if somebody waves some money at them, they take it. And Chris is not that guy. He's very much earned the ability to say no to things that don't fit with him and his message. And I am incredibly proud. Chris became champion the first year that I started running the Olympia, and he won it every single year. For the first six of them that I had the privilege of overseeing, and I couldn't have asked for more. Chris has answered the bell in every way, shape, or form, even in ways that people don't see. When there's a group of people that I want Chris to speak to, or maybe a kid somewhere that I want him to send a message to, and I reach out to Chris, he says yes, and he does it, and he's happy to do it. And those things really add up in the end. And I always say it's not just the things that everybody sees; it's the things that some of these guys do when no one else is looking that really makes the difference.
Are you able to give us an inkling of maybe then the role he might have with Olympia going this year? Because I know we mentioned about the champion he is outside of the Olympia. We see it with Gymshark, his the the stuff he does with socials, his multiple brands investments. It's a true success story of how bodybuilding
Yeah.
can change someone's life, but also, we have to applaud the type of person he is as well. It's not just bodybuilding, but also him as a person. But his role at the Olympia, I mean, is there going to be something there for him? And will that impact the prize money for Classic Physique for 2025?
We've had conversations with Chris about the Classic Physique prize money. It's very important to him. It's also very important to us to do this responsibly and to do it in a way that shows the kind of respect that that division deserves. I have found it to be good practice that when it comes to Chris, he's so good at communicating. He's so good at putting messages out the right way that I'm going to leave that to Chris. I'm going to let Chris speak for himself on that because Chris has a very unique and a very special way of conveying messages and connecting and sharing. And I think it would be best to allow Chris to continue to have those conversations with the fans. And you can be sure that there will always be a relationship between the Olympia and Chris. And it's just a matter of trying to figure out the best way to deploy all of our resources because there's so much that we do and there's so much that he does. And at the end of the day, I think if we all just keep doing what we're doing, the sport's going to continue to grow. But I often feel that when we're in a place like this, you just allow a guy like Chris to lead the charge and to espouse his own messages on this. And my love and respect for Chris and his family knows no boundaries. It really does. And I've gotten a chance to know him in ways, and we've sat and we've talked about things far removed from bodybuilding, and I really enjoy those opportunities. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing a lot more from Chris every single day and every opportunity he gets a chance to check in.
Well, I'll tell you what, like what bodybuilding has done for Chris, what Chris has done for bodybuilding is inspiring either way, and long may it continue, especially to see who will be the next person to maybe take the sport where Chris took it. I wanted to one thing as well. We know the Olympia bodybuilding is global. Harley Chupin, Samson Dauda, Raymondino, Masters Olympia is taking place in Japan. It is truly global. But the question is, we've seen it with the UFC. We've seen it with the WWE. We've seen it with boxing. We're starting to hear more about their main events start to travel around the world. I guess my question is, you spoke about Sin City. We've seen the constant success of Las Vegas being the home of the Olympia. Yes, it's been over at Florida during the pandemic, but Las Vegas has always been linked to the Olympia. It's a draw for everybody. Do you see a time in the future where maybe the Olympia does move away from the US shores because of how global the brand is?
I do see a time. I do see a time where all scenarios played out. I see a time where we will be on different continents. I see a time where we will be in different kinds of venues. I think the world, with all the innovations in technology and how we consume events and how much easier it is to be in different places and to follow events and to watch telecasts and all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, I do. I think that day will come. There are some very appealing regions on the planet that we have tremendous respect for, not just from the fan connection, but also the economic elements of it. And we are very much open to it. And we're always exploring it. I know Jake and I, and Jim Mannion and Tyler and all of the various leaders, we have these conversations about making sure that we are developing parts of the world. I know that each and every day, Tyler Mannion, he oversees an initiative to bring new events to different regions, different countries, to different parts of the world. These events are being held all over in different languages, in different cultures, and that's all part of where this is headed. And each culture has its own unique circumstances with regards to what's accepted and what's allowed and what things are received and what things are not appreciated. So we're constantly having to evaluate those things. But yeah, I think there's definitely an open mind to it, and I think the day will come. For now, of course, we are gearing up for this year's Olympia in Las Vegas, and we're excited about that. But yeah, the conversations are ongoing for sure.
I also heard in a previous interview with AJ, I know you'll love this, is that you did mention as well the hope for one day that we could see the Olympia in a stadium. You know, we've
Yeah.
seen it with WrestleMania and other sports. Obviously, I mentioned WrestleMania because it's just happened. But talk to me about that thought process, because I think you may mention, I can't remember which interview it was specifically, but you said it was like a goal of yours, a dream of yours to one day see the grandest bodybuilding show on earth in a stadium.
So the stadium topic is interesting because certainly as a production guy, I can appreciate the challenges of putting on a bodybuilding show in a stadium that seats 65,000. It almost seems absurd, right? Even just from the standpoint of lighting and sight lines and all of those things, it's not exactly a sport that lends to it. The appeal, though, to doing it is to send a message to the world, to send a message to those who live and eat and breathe and sleep and bleed this lifestyle that we are as popular as many sports on the planet. And I know for sure that there's only one event in this category that has the ability to sell the kind of tickets that you would need to sell to fill up a stadium. So they're in line. So they're the responsibility lies on us, right? To try to make that happen. When we put tickets on sale, they sell out really fast. And whether or not we're selling 5,000 tickets over 2 days or 10,000 tickets over 3 weeks, we can sell tickets because the demand for Olympia tickets is extremely high. And I would love, even if it were just for 1 year, to be able to send a message to sponsors, to fans, to anybody out there who lives this fitness and is on this fitness crusade. I would love for them to um, be shown that their passion is shared in masses, and to be able to put on an Olympia in a stadium would be the ultimate badge of honor for those of us who love bodybuilding, to be able to say to the world, you know what? It's not just wrestling. It's not just the UFC. We can do this too. And people will show up. And I believe that will happen. It might not be ready today or next year, but it's going to happen where we are going to sell out a stadium. And when it does, we're all going to look back at those earlier years, whether it's in 1965 at the Brooklyn Academy of Music, where people crammed into an auditorium to watch Larry Scott compete at a bodybuilding competition, or whether it's years later when we were at Planet Hollywood or at various other venues. We're all going to look back and we're going to be seated in a stadium and we're going to feel that energy and we're going to feel that excitement, much the way that you guys feel when you go to football events in your country. You're going to feel that and you are going to um, you're going to be really proud. You're going to be incredibly proud. Much the same way I've been proud when we have sold out events. I remember back in 2019 in my first year when we were at the Orleans Arena, which, by the way, the Orleans Arena is such a great venue for a bodybuilding contest. Not everybody loves the hotel, we get that, but the arena is a tremendous venue. And I remember that particular year, all the big names for a variety of unique reasons weren't able to compete.
Yeah.
And that was the year, Brandon won the title, right? And I'll never forget looking around at that capacity-filled arena, thinking to myself, man, this thing has come a long way. It didn't matter that Kai Green wasn't there. It didn't matter that Phil Heath wasn't there. It didn't matter that a lot of the biggest names weren't there. People still showed up and bought tickets because the Olympia, it means so much to so many people. They still show up. Now, I want to take that to a whole nother level and do that in a stadium. And when we do it, we'll do it responsibly. We'll find the right way to do it. But it's going to be the ultimate celebration of how far we've come.